What's up, and welcome to Surging Ahead. This is Brett, and today we're going to talk about the Tesla crash in Texas that left 2 dead and has been widely reported to be driverless. There's still much we don't know about this accident, but what we do know is that when first responders arrived on the scene, there were 2 people in the vehicle, neither of which were in the driver's seat. So, what's going on? We'll stick around and we'll dive right in. Alright, so we'll start with a little background information on this. I do want to say this is not my first video I've made about this, so if you want to see the first video I made kind of talking about this, up in the upper right hand corner there will be a link to my first video. But we'll go ahead and recap what happened. The first news outlet I saw to break this was Click to Houston, where they write, "No one was driving the car. 2 men dead after fiery Tesla crash near the Woodlands," officials say. So in this, they reported that the vehicle, which appeared to have been driverless, crashed into a tree and burst into flames immediately. They say that the owner backed out of the driveway and then may have hopped into the back seat only to crash a few hundred yards down the road. He said the owner was found in the back seat upright. They also reported that the fire took hours. The car burned for more than 4 hours, and that they had to call Tesla to ask them how to put the fire out on the battery. So yeah, that was the story as reported. So shortly after that, we get this report or this tweet from Elon Musk in reply to, we'll read the entire thread here. The Wall Street Journal said, 2 men died after a Tesla vehicle that authorities believe was operating without anyone in the driver's seat crashed into a tree Saturday night north of Houston. And then Ahmad A. Dalit replies, "This doesn't make sense. There are safety measures in place with the autopilot. The autopilot seat is weighted to make sure there's a driver. Hands must be on the steering wheel every 10 seconds or it disengages. Autopilot doesn't go over the speed limits." And anyway, basically impossible. Research, please. In which Elon says, "Your research as a private individual is better than professionals." So it takes a shot at the media. "Data logs recovered so far show autopilot was not enabled and this car did not purchase FSD. Moreover, standard autopilot would require lane lines to turn on, which this street did not have." So Elon alludes to it not being autopilot, but he doesn't quite fully commit in my mind. Having to use the "moreover it wouldn't do this" instead of saying that they have 100% logs leaves a little bit of ambiguity in this tweet in my mind. So I don't know. As someone who really hates committing to problems or committing to it's not my problem until I have 100% clarity that it's not my problem, I just hate it coming back on me and it actually being a problem that is mine when it's not. I just prefer it when people really make sure to do their due diligence before saying, "Hey, not my issue." So yeah, anyway, we'll continue on. There's also this thread here by Brandon EE916.
So I need to show this so everyone can see. Go ahead and pan forward. Okay, so I have my passenger recording me. I'm going to turn on FSD mode. Now I don't have a nav point set. I'm going to unbuckle. This is what happens immediately. The car literally has come to a stop and put on my hazards, and you can't drive. So I just wanted to show everyone that this happens.
So that was Brandon E916's response here, where he shows what happens when you unbuckle the seatbelt when in autopilot. So clearly, if this person was driving and had hopped into the back, they would have had to leave the seatbelt buckled. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work. But then we have this video here.
I'm about to take a left turn onto this street right now that has no lines. You'll see that I stop, I'm pulling up to the street, no lines on the street. If I get on the street, I could turn on my cruise control and my autopilot. No lines. And if it was to set itself, let's say I set it to what the cruise control is, I'm gonna trip you out right now. 45 miles per hour.
Okay, so here Sergio shows an area where the speed limit is not defined in the maps that are pre-built, and where the lane lines aren't there, and is able to set autopilot. This actually is extremely surprising to me, as I have never encountered a street without lane lines where I can set autopilot, but just because I haven't found it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, and it's very interesting to see this view. I will say that in some versions of autopilot, it kind of goes back and forth. They will let you, on areas where they're not marked, go to higher speeds than what the speed limit may have been intended to be there, because if it's not marked for speed limits and they don't know what it is, in general, it's been found to be more dangerous. At least my experience, I just can't use it if the speed limit is like 60 or something like that, and the car only allows me to go 45. So I understand why they have that speed limit set like that, but regardless, in this instance, it was able to display that that could happen. So then we have another report here by Consumer Reports, where they show that it's possible to drive the Tesla without having someone in the driver's seat. So I'm not going to play this video here, but what they found was they were able to activate autopilot on their test track, bring it down to 0 miles per hour while still having autopilot engage, put the weight system onto the steering wheel, leave the seat buckled, hop out of the seat, and then they were able to adjust the dial back up to get the speed set again to drive. So that's what we have there. Okay, so now that we've looked at all these articles, what do we have here? Well, we have a report that a Tesla crashed into a tree with nobody driving it. We then have a reply from Elon Musk saying, from our preliminary logs, no one was driving the car, or autopilot was not on, and also it wouldn't be possible because there were no lane lines there. We have a video from Sergio Rodriguez showing an instance where he was able to activate autopilot without having any lane lines, and shows where you could get the car to set an incredibly high speed on a road that is unmarked. We also have a video from Brandon E916 where he shows that if you unbuckle the seatbelt in a car, it won't allow you to use autopilot. Finally, we have a video from Consumer Reports, which shows that if you take extreme measures, you can in fact get a Tesla to drive with nobody in the driver's seat. Okay, so let's take this all back. What do we have? We have an accident where a car managed to get moving extremely quickly, and people managed to get into the back seat. It then went off the road, crashed into a tree, started on fire, and tragically 2 people are dead. Okay? So what does this all mean? Does it mean the car was in autopilot? Does it not? Well, this may be a controversial statement, but I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter if it was an autopilot. All the news has already reported that it was a driverless car, so the assumptions are going to be that it was an autopilot. Okay? And let's say that it was. If we actually take a step back, let's say that it was an autopilot. Well, in order for this to happen, the person who did this would have to be extremely knowledgeable at the autopilot systems to know the exact steps you would have to take to get it to engage in an area where it typically does not, to get it to an extremely high speed, to get out of the seat into the back of the car while still having it drive. And this wasn't like a 25-year-old kid that did it. These gentlemen were in their 60s and 70s. They're not just hopping out of places really quick, right? I mean, not to disparage people in that age range. I'm not that far from there myself, right? But yeah, it's going to be a struggle to get out of a Model S. They're not They kind of tuck you right in there. They're a big car, but it's still, it's a low sedan. It's not the easiest thing to jump out of the seat. So they would have had to have known specifically how to do all of these things and known that what they were doing was outside of the realm of something intelligent to do. They would also have to be familiar enough with the system to know that it makes mistakes. And that just doing this is a terrible idea, right? So they would have had to have known all of those things and still made the decision to hop in the back and start it. It wasn't a great idea. And then, on the opposite side, if it wasn't engaged, then what? Are we going to see a bunch of retractions saying, oh, apparently this car wasn't driverless, there wasn't a problem with that? No, and even if you do, it's not going to get the same amount of publicity, it's not going to get the same amount of coverage. People aren't going to watch those, they're not going to see that story. It doesn't matter if the car was driverless or not, the assumption on people's mind is going to be that it was. But if you were to take all of this same lengths to do this in a car that did not have autopilot, and a car that just had standard cruise control, well, I guarantee you would have had very similar results, and it wouldn't have taken as many lengths to make that car do it. I know all my old cars with just dumb cruise control did not care one bit whether I was strapped in and my seatbelt or not. It didn't care if I put tension on the steering wheel. It didn't care about any of that. Or if I threw a brick on there are a bunch of ways that you could be really, really not smart and make your vehicle go very fast without you in the driver's seat. Almost all of them are substantially more dangerous than doing it when in autopilot. So realistically, this was a safer decision to make than it would have been any other way, assuming autopilot was on. So let's step back another step then. Should Tesla be doing more to prevent this? Well, in my previous video, I talked about how, I think Tesla should be doing more to prevent this. Now, obviously, if you look at everything it takes to make this happen, these people had to have gone to great lengths, right? And it almost doesn't matter what the security precautions are in place to make sure you don't do these. If people really care that much, they're going to figure out how to circumvent the system. It's just, no system is perfect, and someone who really wants to do something stupid often will be smart enough to find a way. Kind of counterintuitive, right? But the point is, I still do think Tesla should do something. I would love to see eye tracking to make sure you're paying attention in a Tesla. I know the older cars, such as mine, do not have a camera inside of it to track that, but I don't think it would take Tesla a substantial amount of effort to get that. And if they did have that, you would probably have less stories like this. Now, I still say probably, because like I said earlier, people would find ways to defeat this. And it doesn't matter if people are in the driver's seat or not. Every time a Tesla crashes, the story is going to allude to it being an autopilot accident, whether it was or wasn't, because, it brings in more clicks. And right or wrong, that's how media works. So, anyway, those are my opinions on the accident. That's what's known so far. Eventually, we'll probably get the full logs of the accident, and Tesla will be able to know for sure whether autopilot was or was not engaged. The government agencies will have their way through the investigation and will also confirm that. But you'll have to be paying really close attention probably to see those answers, because the odds of it being covered highly in the media, unless of course it comes out that specifically they were driverless, are pretty low. Because once again, doesn't quite bring the same amount of traffic. Anyway, let me know what you think. Leave a comment or send me a tweet to my Twitter. This has been Brett with Surging Ahead. If you liked this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos from me, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.